Well, hello everybody and welcome to Jeff's Baking Blog. Today I'm going to make a strawberry tart. So this is going to be a tart case which has been blind baked, and then inside that is going to go some pastry cream, so a thick vanilla custard. You could put other things in, you could make it a mousseline, whipping in more butter and some flavouring. But a pastry cream just as it is will be very good. And then on top of that is going to be strawberries, which I'm also going to glaze just a little bit with some heated jam. Raspberry jam, strawberry jam or apricot jam would work well. I think I might use strawberry jam, and that's all there is to it. So it's not a difficult recipe, but it takes time because there are the individual stages. So I go on to the ingredients, and for the pastry case I have 225 grams, which is 1.5 cups based on scooping packed flour into a 250 milliliter cup of plain flour. I have 113 grams, half a cup of cold unsalted butter, 87 grams, 7 tablespoons of icing sugar, 3 medium egg yolks, just the yolks, that would be large in the USA, and I've beaten those, 1.5 grams, a quarter of a teaspoon of salt. That's what I need for the crust or the tart case. And then for the pastry cream I have 250 milliliters of milk, which is 1 cup plus 2 teaspoons, and I'm using whole milk. I have 60 grams, which is quarter of a cup plus 2 teaspoons of caster sugar. I have 60 grams, a quarter of a cup plus 1 teaspoon of unsalted butter. I have 25 grams, which is 3 tablespoons of corn flour, and I have 5 milliliters, a teaspoon of vanilla extract, and here I have 60 grams of beaten egg yolk, and that works out at about 3.5 egg yolks, medium egg yolks, but you can weigh them. You can try with 3 or you can try with 4. This will determine, along with the corn flour, the thickness of your custard, and we want this nice and thick. And then for the strawberries I have 650 grams here. I've divided it into smaller ones and slightly larger ones so that the larger ones go in the middle, but 650 grams works out at about 1 pound 7 ounces. And then I have some strawberry jam there, which I will warm up so that it's loose, and I can brush that over the strawberries once they're in the tart. So the first thing to do is to go on to make our pastry. And to make the pastry I'm going to do this in the processor bowl of my immersion blender, just for ease really. And I'm going to put my flour into the bowl, and the salt and the icing sugar, and I will just give that the briefest of pulses just to get those a little bit combined. And then I will put the butter in, and I will pulse that until it achieves the texture of fine breadcrumbs basically. And that's good like that. So I'm going to drizzle in about half of my egg yolks, and I'm going to process it, and then I'll add more egg yolk as I process it until it begins to clump together into a dough. And that's almost there, and I think just this remaining little bit of egg yolk will do it for me basically. And that's clumping together, I can feel that now. So I'm going to tip that out onto some plastic wrap. And that's easily squeezed into a soft dough, as you can see. And I'm going to form that into a disc like that and wrap it up, and I'm going to chill it for an hour. So I'll put that into the fridge and chill it for an hour, and while it's chilling we'll go on to make the pastry cream. And to make the pastry cream I'm going to put my milk into a saucepan, and I'm going to put that on the heat and heat it up until it's just about boiling, so I want it nice and hot. But I'm going to heat it on a reasonably low heat so that the milk doesn't stick to the pan. And while that's heating, I'm going to put my sugar and my corn flour into a bowl. And I'll just give those a bit of a mix around, and then I'm going to add in my eggs, or my egg yolks should I say, the 60 grams of egg yolk, and I'm going to mix those into a paste. And that's good, like that, very easy to do. And then just as soon as my milk is heated, we can add that into the paste. And what I'll do is I'll add my vanilla extract in at the same time. That will loosen it a little bit further. And that's ready to take the milk just as soon as it's warm enough. And so my milk is now very, very hot, and I'm going to just take some of that and add a little bit of it into my paste, and I'm going to whisk as I pour it in. What I want to do is I want to temper the eggs so that they don't scramble. And I can add more. And that's good. So then I can add all of the remaining milk in. And then I'll pour that back into the pan. And I'm going to put that onto the heat, and I'm going to heat it, stirring and whisking the whole time until it becomes very, very thick. So I'll put the heat on and I'll immediately start to whisk. And I can feel that beginning to thicken, so it's important to keep whisking so that it doesn't stick to the bottom or get any lumps. And that's thickened very, very quickly, as you can see. And I'm just going to cook that for about 30 seconds to ensure that the corn flour is thickened and cooked. And you can see that's very, very thick. So that's good. So I'm going to take that off the heat. And with that in the bowl, I'm actually going to stir in the 60 grams of butter. And that will melt as I stir it. And that's stirred in quite easily. So then I'm simply going to scrape around the side of the bowl, and I'm going to press some plastic wrap onto the top of that to prevent the film from forming as it cools down. So I'll let that pastry cream cool down completely, and when the tart case dough has chilled enough, I'll come back and we'll roll it out and blind bake our pastry. So I've taken my pastry out of the fridge after it's chilled for an hour, and I'm going to roll that out so that it fills my tart pan, which, if I didn't mention, is 9 inches 23 centimetres. And that should be large enough like that. So I'm going to roll that up onto my rolling pin. And if it cracks, it doesn't matter because you can patch it. I always say that with this soft pastry, but it's true. So I'll just gently unroll that onto the tin, and I'll push it down into the side. And as you can see, it's very tender, so it's breaking, but then we will just patch that. And that's good like that. So I'm just going to take a fork and I'm going to prick it all over the base. Just like that. And then I'm going to put that back into the fridge, and I'm going to chill it for another hour. And as the hour comes to an end, I'm going to preheat my oven to 190 degrees Celsius, 170 Celsius with a fan, 375 Fahrenheit, and that will then be ready to blind bake. But I'll come back, we'll put some parchment paper in, some baking beans, and we'll blind bake it. So my oven is preheated and my pastry has chilled for an hour. So I've got some parchment paper which I've creased it up so that it's easier to fit into the pastry, and I've just put that into the tart tin and pour on my baking beans. Now, as I always say, you can use rice, you can use dried beans, you can use dried pasta, whatever you want, as long as you don't reuse it for cooking later. But the baking beans that I have work well. So I put those in and I'm going to put that into the oven and I'm going to bake it for 15 minutes. Then I take it out of the oven, remove the baking beans and the parchment paper and put it back into the oven for a further 8 to 10 minutes until the pastry case or the tart case has cooked completely. Then I take it out of the oven and leave it to cool down, and once it's cooled down I can come back and we can assemble our strawberry tart. My tart case has baked and it's cooled down and I've taken it out of the tin. So what I need to do now is to assemble the tart, and for that I'll take my Creme Patissiere, which has also cooled down nicely, and I'm going to spread that over the base. And I should say about this base, if you were making this tart case to fill with something which you're going to bake in the oven, which is liquid, as part of the blind baking process, when you take the beans out, you can brush the surface with some beaten egg or egg white, and then put it in the oven to finish the baking process, and that will seal the pastry so that the liquid, when you put it on later, doesn't seep in and make it go soggy. But because this is not such a tart, I don't need to do that. So I haven't used quite all of my pastry cream, but I think that's enough for this purpose, and I'm levelling it off reasonably so. Or maybe I will put the remainder in as well. And just spread that over as well, that would be fine. And then we'll put the strawberries on. And as I mentioned earlier, I divided them into small and larger so that the larger ones can go in the centre. So with the pastry cream spread, I'm going to take my small strawberries and I'm going to place them around the edge, just pressing them in a little bit, trying to make them about level. Like that. And then I'll take the larger ones, and they can stand a little bit higher. And then the last thing to do, and you can do it if you want to, or you don't have to if you don't want to, is to brush over some jam to form a glaze. And I have some strawberry jam which I have just melted, and I'm just going to go around and but I'm not going to be very particular, but just enough on the top of each one to give it a little bit of a glaze. And that is all there is to it, really. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to chill that in the fridge just to let it set up a little bit so that the custard firms up just a little bit, and then I'll come back and we'll cut it and we'll have a taste. So I've chilled my strawberry tart for about an hour, and it's set up just that little bit better. So I've now cut a slice out of it, and I'll show you what it looks like with the slice cut out. So it cuts quite nicely, as you can see, and I'm quite keen to have a taste, so I'll have a taste now. That's very good indeed. Pastry is nice and crisp and slightly sweetened. The custard is perfectly smooth with a slight hint of vanilla, and then those lovely fresh strawberries complement it perfectly. So this is actually an easy recipe, as I mentioned earlier. There's different stages: make the pastry, blind bake it, make the custard, and then assemble the pie. But it's all very, very easy. So that's going to be it for this recipe. I hope you've enjoyed it, and if you have, please give me the thumbs up below and click to subscribe to my YouTube channel. In the top right hand corner of the screen there'll be an eye that you can click on, and that will take you to a link for the recipe, and I'll put a link below the video as well, and I'll be back with another recipe in the very near future. So until then, happy baking.